Hello again, everyone, and welcome to our third video in the Intel series on the path to the cloud. So far, we've looked at the strategy and the approach in our first episode, and then in our last one, the pretty hot topic of security. And today, we're discussing how your application environment and its demands will lead you to either on-premise, hybrid, or multi-cloud service delivery, and some of the key considerations that you're going to need to factor into those decisions. Now, just as in prior episodes, what you are not going to hear is product pitches or plugs for a particular type of technology. What you are going to hear is real-world advice based on hands-on experience from deep subject matter experts in Intel's own IT function who've already lived through on and off-premise cloud adoption. So let's get to it. I'm joined today by Chandra Chitneni and a returning Sridhar Mahankali. So gentlemen, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do in your IT roles. Chandra, let me start with you.
Hello, Phil. This is Chandra Chitneni. I'm the principal network engineer for Intel. Our team manages the network needs for WAN as well as the cloud connectivity.
Great to have you. Thank you, Chandra. And Sridhar, welcome back.
Hi, everyone. I'm part of Intel IT's infrastructure and information security organization with a focus on network security.
Excellent. Thank you. And welcome again, both. So before we get into some of the real detail, it strikes me and indeed many of our customers that there's a lot of confusion about the difference between hybrid and multi-cloud. So perhaps we could just start by having an overview of some of the key differences. Chandra, can I give this one to you?
Sure. Multi-cloud usually refers to the fact of having on-prem cloud as well as access to multiple public clouds. Some companies might choose all out and only go for multiple public clouds, but Intel's case, we have a fairly large design and manufacturing environment. Thus, we are multi-cloud where we use both on-prem cloud as well as external cloud. Now, when it comes to hybrid cloud, it's an extension to the multi-cloud where we can have more integration and orchestration between the clouds. There's some complexities that come with it, but in our case, we're mostly multi-cloud. We also have some hybrid cloud installments too.
Thank you. And to what extent does it depend on where you are in your maturity life cycle as to which direction you might be going in? Sridhar.
It really depends on where you are in your business or application development life cycle. If you are starting off on that cycle, then start with the public cloud, pick one cloud, and then as your demand as well as scale grows, you can expand that to other clouds. But if you have an existing application ecosystem, it might be best for you to focus on a hybrid cloud type of infrastructure because you cannot move all the application to the cloud in one go. So go with a hybrid cloud. If you have an existing application ecosystem, move what you can to the cloud and connect back on-premise for what remains there.
Thanks very much. That's really interesting. I wonder, could you give any specific examples of this?
Sure. Our Intel validation teams have used public cloud to great effect. With their use case, they need to test a variety of applications or firmware or drivers on a variety of operating systems and on a variety of platforms. Public cloud gives them the flexibility to spin up operating systems or platforms as they need it, do their testing, and when they're done with their testing, they can spin that environment back down. They can still consume resources that are back on-premise, and this model has worked out really great for them.
Okay, so then to expand on that, we'll go a bit deeper. How did Intel approach enabling multi-cloud? Chandra.
Sure. What we did is we reached out to our customer base to get a better gauge on customer demands. In doing so, we came to know that we have wide-ranging customers with different types of needs. So what became apparent is there was a very high demand and we need to build the infrastructure that's more scalable. So we started with building high-speed integration in US. Here is where we established a point of presence at our colos, and then we install high-speed bandwidth between the co-location facilities and Intel. And then at the co-location facilities, we integrated with multiple cloud providers on an as-needed basis. So what this enabled us is to have high bandwidth available to the customers that needed the most. So we shared the bandwidth among multiple customers and multiple cloud providers. So it gave us a very easy path to go enable multi-cloud to our needs.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's really important to partner with your users before you kind of establish the demand pattern. Is there a prescriptive model for IT to implement or enable multi-cloud? Sridhar.
The approach that we've taken is that we initially engaged with our customers to offer consulting help to build on our expertise that we have had in hosting applications and offer that to our business units in sort of a cloud brokering manner. And by doing that, we were able to guide them to the right cloud ecosystem based upon their application characteristics. Initially, also, there was no requirement to connect back to on-premise resources. As their applications evolved, that need to connect to core services enhanced, and we were able to offer that those services while they're on-premise. And as their need further evolved, we were able to extend high-speed connectivity and so on and so forth as well. So the key thing I would say is start with an engagement with the customer, provide that consulting, and build on the IT services that you can provide to them as their demand grows.
So thanks. To expand on that partnering and brokering, when IT functions are having these conversations, what are the key things you think businesses of all size need to have at the forefront of their minds? Chandra.
I think enterprises need to focus on enterprise application strategy, because that's going to define at what scale, what locations, what regions you need to scale and build your infrastructure. Having that strategy upfront is a very critical component.
Also, as I was indicating earlier, oftentimes the application developers and business units don't have the necessary IT expertise to host applications. So definitely have IT come to the table and offering that expertise to the business units to make a successful cloud deployment.
So Sridhar, that's a really interesting avenue we're going down there. Could you give any specific examples?
An example of where we can benefit from IT's expertise in this area is surrounding data locality. What we have found is that it's beneficial to have your complete application ecosystem within one cloud provider or on premises and not spread it across clouds. That is critical for application performance. So this is sort of learning that we can give to our business units so that they can avoid the pitfalls that we've already learned from.
To add on to Sridhar, I also want to emphasize that one needs to pay attention to the latency and the data volume that's going to move in and out of the cloud. Most cloud providers, billing is based upon the amount of data download. So they need to pay attention to making an assessment on what the network I/O is going to be, as well as latency as the data moves back and forth between the enterprise environment.
Yeah, that's excellent. So I think what we're saying is that you don't really want to have a situation where you've got your compute in one location and the data that storage that it's accessing in another for kind of obvious performance reasons. Thanks so much for that. So is there any truth in the position that certain applications might be more suited to the cloud than others? Chandra, what do you think?
Certainly. Our general principle is to leverage SaaS as much as possible because it comes off the shelf and made it available to use. As a result, the general office applications and collaboration applications we try to advocate on using SaaS environment. For other applications such as AI, IoT, analytics, here is where our customers are finding cloud to be on the leading edge of making most of the new capabilities available, and thus they're the preferred choice for our customers. Besides that, there are also some hosting applications that needs to be more accessible to the customers, and those are also the applications more suitable to be hosted in the cloud environment.
In addition to what Chandra said, there are certain cloud services that are very tough to duplicate on premises, like design patterns that benefit from serverless compute or object storage. Those are examples of services that are natively available in the cloud, but are difficult to implement on-premise. Hence, if your applications benefit from those sorts of capabilities, absolutely use a cloud.
Okay, so I think we're hitting on some really useful points here. As we scale out though, and as we get more complexity in the environment, let's take this in a different direction. Who pays for all this? IT, line of business? How do we manage that side of it?
We have taken a pay-per-view model approach to billing back our business units based upon their usage of the cloud. The benefit that this gives is that we can negotiate volume discounts with our cloud providers on consumption of their services. It allows us to offer shared services like DNS, Active Directory, as well as enable high-speed connectivity to the customers, but at the same time have the cost be shared across our business units.
To add on to that, cloud offers plethora of services, right? By making it all available to the consumers, it feels like they could use whatever they want to whatever extent they want, but there are costs associated with all this stuff. That's why I want to agree with Sridhar that exposing the cost to the customer is good business practice. And that's why we advocate on using pay-per-view for the cloud services.
That is excellent practical advice on a topic which always comes up. Thank you so much. So we've touched on connectivity and connections a few times. When do we need public versus private connections, and how do we connect across clouds? Chandra.
So Intel is a global company. So what we have done is we established a point of presence in various regions across the world. And we use high-speed WAN connectivity in connecting back to Intel to give the best application performance. Now, it's a very expensive thing to do that, and we didn't duplicate this at every single locations where we need cloud access. Instead, we use private connections where we know the demands are high and applications are sensitive. In other environments, we encourage customers to start with VPN, make use of it, and when we know the demands for the long run, that's when we go back and retrofit with the more permanent connections. So we use high-speed connections where needed and VPN to get started.
To build on what Chandra said, the other approach that we've taken is that rather than build this high-speed connectivity to each individual cloud provider, we've taken the approach of extending our WAN to a colo provider, establishing a WAN presence within the colo provider, and then cross-connecting to different cloud providers within the colocation facility. This allows us to optimize cost and connectivity, and that has proven really beneficial for us.
Yeah, that's excellent. And touching on colo is a really useful thing. In fact, lots of the telecommunications companies are offering services in those areas. So this has been great stuff. Thank you, guys. I think we've gone really deep in a very, very short space of time. Just want to give you one more opportunity. What's the one thing that you would like customers to take away from this? Chandra.
I'll focus on application lifecycle, vendor lock-in, and the growth needs, and build your cloud infrastructure accordingly.
Excellent. Thank you. And Sridhar.
If you take one thing away from this discussion, is that have all the application components in one cloud ecosystem and don't spread your compute across cloud providers. That can be a challenge from a performance and experience perspective.
So thank you again both for your thoughts and your inputs and your insights into this topic today. If I can attempt to summarize what we've heard, 1, it's really important to partner with line of business and application owners and use cloud brokering. 2, think big, start small. That will enable you to learn as fast as possible. And 3, really important, to keep your application components in one place, in one environment. That will give you the best costs and performance that you can get. Now, I really hope you've enjoyed this. If you want to learn more or want to download the white papers, please click on the links in the description below, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.